Hey folks, this is Brian. We got to play in Elderath last night. It's been actually quite a while due to some scheduling conflicts, but it was a fifth Saturday, so we squoze it in. So we'll have another review next week with the first Saturday of the month. Okay, so uh, some stuff going on, just general discussions of things, and following up on some information. So the actual entry point of the Valley Forge in the system is about 8 days from its current location, as opposed to the entry point that the fake story told of being very near the toroid. Some questions about the ship itself. The nacelles have missile turrets. There's a dorsal and belly turrets that we assume are Nova guns. We haven't actually been able to access that, though we should have figured that out with the access we end up getting. So Wes, so people ask, what are you doing? Well, one thing Wes wants to do, he wants to do a surface scan of the sun, of the star in this system. He's actually looking for a dragon, which is the same thing that he saw in the star in the Roscion system when he was there. And he does notice similar disturbances, so after that he quickly changes his focus because he remembers from the Roscion thing that as soon as he locked onto that dragon, the dragon locked onto him, and it was not a good thing. So he didn't want to cause any issues there. So he goes to do like a system-wide scan because Rain was asking, hey, what are the planets? So there are no other planets in the system. However, there are 3 separate asteroid belts. Maybe that's where the stuff with the toroid came from. Anyway, Raymond starts looking for anything that could be used to repair the Valley Forge or could be useful at the villa. And we kind of did this on our initial go through, but he's going through again, nothing. You can see places where there were like workbenches and tables and stuff that were, cut from the bulkhead kind of deal. They took everything that could be used. Okay. And there's some discussion about the gig and stuff. Oh, by the way, all this is in the live play if you like listening to that kind of thing. In the discussion. In the description is the link to the live play. Okay, so the gig for this ship is small. We knew there were a lot of people, so it would have taken a number of trips for the gig to transport everybody back down to this, not back, everybody down to the surface. Another thing catching up on, so once the 2 ships' systems had connected with that umbilical, the Valley Forge recognized the far horizons, and vice versa. So Runt on the far horizons can use the far horizons computer systems to access the Valley Forge's computer system. So he starts to do that. He's looking for camera systems, specifically around the time that the bridge decompressed. And so he sees an event. There is this sphere of darkness hovering just outside the area. A couple of streams of shadow reach out, take hold of the ship. Seems like it's poking at it. But then it grabs a hole and begins to rip apart the hull plating. So the atmosphere vents. The shape changes, becoming much, much smaller and translucent. And it shows that inside is a person in black robes with a staff, and he walks onto the bridge. We recognize this guy. This is Luther, who sells things and has a microwave in his wagon and connected us up with the pirates to get us across from Blackwater to Minok. Okay. The time stat of the event, though, was 200 years ago. He looks around. He sits in one of the cockpit chairs. He's looking at everything very carefully, like he's trying to commit it to memory. Doesn't touch anything. Eventually, though, he stands and then just disappears. Runt tries looking for some video footage of the actual occupants of the ship itself, but was unsuccessful. However, we do later on get to see someone. Okay, so there's video footage of any other system after the departure, but before us. So there's a number of gig departures, lots of people. But later on, 4 guys in the gig show up, and they systematically begin removing all the tools and the structure, benches, etc. that they would need. Then 60 years later, there's one more return. It's an older woman. She docks. She looks around the ship. She's wearing homespun type clothing. But she apparently has access to all the ship systems because she's walking around. She spends a good 8 hours meditating in engineering bay right in front of the grav drive. Runt also finds a partial manifest list which has first initials and some full last names, some partial last names. There's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, and 10. About 25 of those, and there's a child priority list. One of which I just recognize as Stolf. Ooh, I'm going to bring that to everybody's attention here. This is all over with. Then there's a signal loss. It's a notes fragment, and then it says, seed vault secured, knowledge base critical, cryo units breached, unlisted passengers flagged, last call initiated, launch window closing, breach detected, forced, obviously missed jump. Protect genetic archive, preserve elder knowledge for the lost worlds, end shard. Okay, so Runt and Wes use their programming skills to make a connection between the far horizon and the Valley Forge, so their computer systems are, Bluetoothed together kind of thing, right? So we can now access the Valley Forge systems from the far horizons. There is fuel aboard the far horizon, probably enough to destabilize its orbit, not much more than that. Both the Valley Forge and the far horizons use hydrogen as fuel, so we could transfer fuel from the far horizons into the Valley Forge and eventually fuel it up. So that's something we got back out of our heads of stuff to do in the future. So Wes uses does a search of the system. Does a search of the system, and he's looking for elder knowledge. That term was inserted in the system 60 years after the ship's arrival. So when the woman arrived, she inserted that stuff. So Wes tries to do a mentalism trick, and he does the meditation in front of the grav drive, just like the woman, and tries to access his mentalism spell list, which is cloaking. That's the only thing he knows that's mentalist based. He is successful with meditating, but not successful with the mentalism. Nothing seems to happen. Okay, so then we discuss, okay, what are you going to do next? And Wes asks, okay, do we hit the islands and look for tech, or do we go to Forge's Rift and look at the Hyperloop? That's what Wes wants to do. He wants to go to the Hyperloop. The sensors of the Valley Forge, though, as they get close to the surface of the toroid, become disruptive. So we can't use the sensors in general. We can use the teleoptics, though. And so we're checking out, the piece of pipe that is the Hyperloop that sticks out into the rift by Forge's Castle. Looking for, hey, are there any power emissions? Is there power to the system still? That kind of thing. And it's dead. Okay, but the fuel, we also learned that fuel capacity between the Far Horizon and the Valley Forge is significant. So the Valley Forge, which you would expect, has a much larger fuel capacity than the Far Horizon. So if we were to refuel the Valley Forge, it would take us many trips. So we ended up deciding to go investigate the people in the place where the Valley Forge's gig landed. There was an initial landing at the top of this northern island, and the final landing at the southern part of the island, where they're actually a little village now. So it takes the Far Horizons a full day to travel from where the Valley Forge is, which is south of Telgar, which is about the 40th parallel. Yeah, Telgar's at the 40th parallel, the Far Horizon's at the 33rd parallel, but it's just directly south of Telgar. And it takes us about a day traveling in space, with everything happening, to reach where the island chain is. From there, we descend. Come on down. And away from the islands at night, so it's dark, we come down, hit the surface, then we sail in towards the village. So that morning, we come towards the village. The dock that is there is not able to support the Far Horizons. It's much smaller. It's just made for the fishing craft in this area. And there are a number of fishing craft here. They don't look like anything typical from like a Telgar type fishing boat. So Wes takes a look through the spyglass, and the construction is not clinker where you have plank over plank over plank over plank, and then you use tar and stuff to seal it all up, right? These are smooth finish. In fact, we can't even see a seam, and it's been lacquered over some kind of finish, making it smooth, which is similar to Telgar 2, where they had guns and cannons and stuff, those kinds of ships. So we come in towards the village and we try making contact. We're using English. The fishermen don't understand that, so we switch to common, which they do understand. Hey, we're explorers, and they say, hey, there's nothing to see here. And then we ask, well, can we get provisions at the village? Yes. We can't dock up because our ship's too big. And so we ferry us. Well, we're almost finished here. When we're done, we can take you in. And they ask how many of us need to go. There's 4 of us on board. Decided to leave somebody on board the whole time, so 3 of us. While we're there, we're talking with the fishermen, and actually when we get aboard, they come back. We get on board, gets a good look at the boat. It's easily a Tech 6 craft, well above medieval. It's made with modern techniques, though it is made of wood. There's something odd about these guys. They have distinctive Asian features, and their clothing is also unusual. It is a modern thread count type clothing, not homespun. And Raymond asked, hey, can we get clothing like that here? He says, no, but you can't ask for it. That's the trading village. It's on the eastern island. They end up ferrying us over to the dock. They tie up. They say, we call this place Starfall. There's not a lot of amenities. Raymond asks why, and they go, we're not sure. Maybe an asteroid fell in the past, kind of thing. And Wes says, okay, so where's the village elders? I think it says, well, down there. So it's just this one path. Off the dock, there's a path into the village. As we're walking on the pack, though, this dock is manufactured in a far superior manner than what we have in Telgar. In the village, these are rural. It's a rural area. Lots of room, lots of space, gardens, that kind of stuff. But the house scene is solid, like some kind of a stucco kind of thing. There are nice visual gardens where we can sit and meditate. Unless we find, because we can't distinguish, hey, is there a village? We can't tell. So there is this really nice garden here. So Raymond goes and sits and meditates, and eventually we all just kind of go on over there. And while we're there, though, we're approached by a fellow named Emmerich. He introduces himself. Raymond schmoozes with him about this park bench, and we find out that, because, again, wood, wrought iron work, surfaced, smooth, all that kind of stuff, but the park bench came from Ashfall. That's where the mines are. Emmerich says if we need, Emmerich's going to try and see if we can't find us a place to get some food and maybe crash for the night. Although I think we'll just see if somebody can't ferry us out to the ship. But while we're waiting, while we're there talking with Emmerich, Raymond sees a couple of other locals that seem to be just kind of hovering by, and he notices these guys have got needlers, and one of them has a rapier hilt hanging from his belt. So it's either like a monofilament blade or possibly a laser sword of some kind. This is the spot. The garden here is the spot where the gig landed the last time. So Raymond begins wandering. There's some paths here, walking paths. So he begins wandering off, and the path he takes ends up at a cemetery. Now the tombstones here are polished marble. Some are cast concrete, and it's about 600 years worth of stuff you could estimate being here, right? And you can see a progression from older construction to newer construction, and there's an advancement in techniques as you do so. We try to figure out the dating system, but we're not able to do so. Eventually, we all come along together because Raymond starts asking, "Hey, can you not read this, but can you decipher this time frame kind of thing?" And so we all gather up there. None of us can figure this out. Wes then uses the spyglass to scan the village using IR. He's looking for anything unusual, like maybe some of the buildings have got tech underneath that's like heating the house, that kind of thing and stuff. But he can't discern anything unusual. We continue along the path, which comes to a stream, and then it follows the stream and it comes to a clearing where there's a campfire and a gathering of people. As we approach, it looks like there's someone giving some young adults a lecture on something. There's actually a chalkboard there with mathematical equations. Raymond recognizes that they're teaching calculus. But Hjalmar says, these discussions have more, they have to do with trajectories, like orbital mechanics kind of thing. And that's where we had to end because it hit midnight and my eyeballs were bleeding. Happy gaming.